Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something that's probably crossed your mind a time or two: student happiness. You know, are students actually thriving, or are they just kind of barely keeping their heads above water? To help us unpack all of this, we've got the 2024 Student Happiness Index report.
Howden's education division, yeah.
And let me tell you, it's a real eye-opener.
It is. This report goes way beyond just like grades and test scores, It gives us a real glimpse into like the whole student experience.
Yeah, and the first thing that jumps out at you is this. The overall happiness score is up. It jumped from 36% in 2023 to 44% in 2024.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, so you'd think, oh, great, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But here's the catch. Fewer than 1 in 5 students said they actually feel very happy.
It really makes you wonder what's going on beneath the surface, And when you dig a little deeper, it becomes clear that a lot of students are actually struggling. A whopping 43% reported that their mental health has actually gotten worse in the past year.
Okay, that's a huge red flag. What's driving that decline in mental health?
Well, the report points to financial stress as a major culprit. I mean, think about it. Try to focus on classes when you're worried about, paying rent or even affording groceries.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. The report mentions that a lot of students are juggling part-time jobs just to kind of make ends meet.
Absolutely. And it's creating this kind of like a vicious cycle where they need to work to afford their education, but that work is making it harder to actually succeed in their studies.
Right.
So they're missing classes,
Yeah.
Cutting back on social activities, and some are even turning to AI to try and, boost their academic efficiency.
So they're missing out on the whole college experience, the social connections, the personal growth.
Yeah, their whole thing.
Yeah.
The late night study sessions.
Maybe not the ramen noodles, though. Those can stay in the past.
Yeah, right.
But,
Speaking of missing out, the report highlights some particularly concerning trends for LGBTQ plus students. A staggering 77% of them reported struggling with their mental health in the past year.
that is alarming. What's contributing to that disparity?
Well, access to support services seems to be a big issue. Only 24% of LGBTQ plus students strongly agree that that their institution provides enough mental health support.
Wow.
And it really underscores the need for universities and colleges to step up and make sure all students feel supported.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that those mental health resources are truly accessible to everyone. Now, the report also took a closer look at students in further education, and it seemed like they're facing a bit of a paradox. 62% reporting feeling generally happy, but fewer of them experience those like very happy moments compared to their university counterparts. So what's the story there?
Loneliness and social isolation were identified as major factors, which likely contributed to their mental health struggles. And here's a truly concerning statistic. 40% of further education students have considered dropping out because of financial pressure.
That is a huge GE number. It raises some serious questions about the support systems in place for further education students. Imagine having your education derailed because you simply can't afford to stay enrolled.
It's a stark reality for many. And this financial pressure is it's a recurring theme throughout the report. It seems to be impacting students across the board, but it manifests in different ways.
Right. And speaking of different experiences, the report had some pretty surprising findings about international students. Both EU and non-EU international students actually reported higher levels of happiness than UK students. I wouldn't have predicted that.
It is interesting. It suggests that factors like the excitement of studying abroad and experiencing a new culture might be contributing to their overall happiness.
That makes sense. But it's not all smooth sailing for them, right? The report also mentions some challenges that they face.
Right. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Despite the higher overall happiness, international students still face mental health challenges. And access to support services seems to vary quite a bit. For example, EU students reported lower levels of feeling safe on campus compared to non-EU students.
So there's clearly more to unpack here when it comes to the international student experience. But before we kind of dive into those broader trends, I think it's helpful to hear directly from students themselves. The report includes some compelling case studies that really bring these statistics to life.
I agree. Hearing their stories can be incredibly illuminating. The first case study focuses on a student named Anna, who's navigating a particularly challenging set of circumstances.
Okay, let's hear what Anna has to say.
So Anna is a third-year student at the University of Gloucestershire, and she's been struggling with financial hardship throughout her degree. She had to transfer universities after her first year, which, added to her financial burden. And she's been relying on her student maintenance loan to cover her rent in a shared student house.
Even with financial aid, rent can be a huge expense. It sounds like she's already facing a lot of pressure.
She is, and to make ends meet, she's been working at least 20 hours a week as an assistant manager at a coffee shop for the past 2 years.
Wow, 20 hours on top of a full course load? That's a lot to juggle.
Exactly. And that balancing act has taken a toll. She's had to miss lectures and struggle to keep up with her coursework because of the demands of her job.
So she's in this tough spot where she needs to work to afford her education, but that work is making it harder for her to actually succeed.
Exactly. And, as you can imagine, this situation has had a significant impact on her mental health.
That's heartbreaking. But sadly, not surprising. It's hard enough to be a student, let alone when you're facing that kind of, financial pressure.
You're absolutely right. And it's important to remember that this is the reality for many students, particularly those from less privileged backgrounds.
It really highlights how the student experience can vary so drastically depending on individual circumstances.
And speaking of different circumstances, the next case study focuses on a student named David, who's taken a very different approach to managing his finances and university life.
Okay, I'm curious to hear how David's experience compares to Anna's.
Well, David is a first-year computer science student at Loughborough University. And unlike Anna, he doesn't need to work alongside his studies. He's chosen to take only the baseline maintenance loan to minimize his future debt. And he's fortunate to have financial support from his parents.
So he's in a much more privileged position financially, but is he still concerned about money at all?
He is, but in a different way. David's chosen to take on a 0-hour contract with his student union, not out of financial necessity, but to gain work experience.
That's interesting. So he's prioritizing career development over immediate income.
Exactly. And even though he has that financial safety net from his parents, he's still very focused on managing his university expenses responsibly.
It sounds like he's learning some valuable financial skills early on, which will definitely serve him well in the future.
Absolutely. And by being financially secure himself, he's also become more aware of the different financial realities that other students face. He's seen friends miss out on social events because of work commitments, and he recognizes the sacrifices they make.
That's so important. It's easy to become detached from the struggles of others when you're not experiencing them yourself.
Right, but David's been able to gain that broader perspective and develop a sense of empathy for his peers.
It's a great example of how, even within a relatively privileged position, you can still cultivate awareness and understanding of the challenges others face.
And speaking of diverse experiences, the next case study focuses on a postgraduate student named Helena, who's balancing work, studies, and finances at a different stage in her educational journey.
Okay, I'm interested to hear Helena's perspective. Postgraduate studies often come with a unique set of challenges.
Absolutely. Helena is in her first year studying illustration at Leeds Arts University. She actually finished her undergraduate degree in creative writing a few years ago.
So she's coming back to academia after some time in the real world. That must bring a whole new perspective to her studies.
It does, and it also means she's juggling a lot more responsibilities. She's living independently with her partner and working full-time as a marketing assistant alongside her studies.
Wow, full-time work and a master's degree. That's a demanding schedule.
It is, but she's learned a lot from her previous experience at university, both about the struggles of financial instability and the benefits of financial independence.
So she's bringing those valuable lessons from her past to her current situation.
Exactly. And while she's found ways to manage her money effectively, she's also seen firsthand how difficult it can be for other students, especially those who are studying full-time and struggling to find jobs in the current economic climate.
It's that awareness of the bigger picture that can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And Helena's past experiences have had a profound impact on her choices.
How so?
Well, she faced significant financial difficulties during her undergraduate years, and that experience really influenced her decision to study her master's part-time. This way, she can work full-time and avoid the financial stress she went through before.
That's a smart move. She's prioritizing her financial well-being and making choices that align with her needs. It's like she's taking control of her circumstances rather than letting them control her.
Exactly. To avoid unnecessary stress, she's incredibly organized with her finances. She tracks her spending using budgeting apps and a Google spreadsheet.
I love that. Having a visual representation of your finances can be incredibly helpful, especially when you're trying to, stay on top of multiple income streams and expenses.
Absolutely. But even with her best efforts, Helena's financial struggles during her undergraduate years still had a significant impact on her mental health. It's a reminder that even when you find ways to manage and cope, financial stress can leave lasting scars.
It's true, and it makes me wonder, are universities doing enough to equip students with the skills and resources they need to manage their finances effectively?
That's a really important question. And Helena herself believes there's a need for better financial education and resources for students. She feels that many young people enter university without a clear understanding of budgeting, loans, or the real cost of living.
That lack of financial literacy can be incredibly damaging. It can lead to, poor choices, mounting debt, long-term financial struggles. It's like sending them out into the world without a map or a compass.
Exactly. And Helena feels that more accessible financial workshops or, one-on-one support sessions could make a huge difference in helping students develop better money management habits early on.
It's an investment in their future well-being, both financially and emotionally.
I couldn't agree more. And Helena also pointed out a potential gap in financial support for part-time students.
That's an interesting point. We often focus on the challenges faced by full-time students, but part-timers have their own unique needs and circumstances.
Right. She's noticed that while full-time students often have access to maintenance loans, part-time students can sometimes fall through the cracks.
So they're expected to be more financially independent, but they don't always have the same level of support.
Exactly. And it's a challenge that deserves more attention.
It certainly does. So how's Helena feeling about her own financial future?
Well, her financial situation has improved significantly since her undergraduate years, and she feels confident in her ability to manage her money effectively. She's come a long way, and she's determined to graduate feeling financially secure and ready for whatever comes next.
It's an inspiring story of resilience and determination. She's faced hardship, learned from it, and is now using those lessons to build a brighter future for herself.
Absolutely. And her story, along with Anna's and David's, paints a vivid picture of the diverse realities of student life in 2024. These case studies are so valuable because they remind us that behind every statistic is a real person with her own unique set of challenges, dreams, and aspirations.
Exactly. It's not just about numbers. It's about real people navigating the complexities of life. And as we move on to discuss the broader trends and themes highlighted in this report, it's crucial to keep these individual experiences in mind. They provide a powerful lens through which to understand the challenges and opportunities facing students today.
Absolutely. And one of the most striking trends that emerges from this report is the overwhelming concern about the cost of living. It's the top concern for students across almost every region.
It's like this dark cloud hanging over their heads, impacting their mental health, their academic performance, their social lives, everything. And we see that reflected in the data. Over 43% of students reported struggling to afford food and basic necessities.
That's a staggering number. It means that a significant portion of students are facing food insecurity and basic needs insecurity. We're talking about students having to choose between buying textbooks and buying groceries.
That's simply unacceptable. It's hard enough to focus on your studies when you're sleep-deprived and stressed, but imagine trying to learn on an empty stomach.
It's a recipe for disaster. And the report dives deeper into these financial concerns, breaking them down by gender and revealing some pretty stark differences.
Okay, I'm curious to hear about the gender dynamics here. What did they find?
Well, women were significantly more likely than men to express concern about the cost of living. In fact, 48% of female students identified it as their top concern, compared to only 28% of male students.
Wow, that's a significant gap. What might be contributing to this difference?
Well, there could be a few factors at play. Women are more likely to be in lower-paying jobs, and they might be disproportionately affected by, the rising cost of childcare and other essential expenses.
It really highlights the intersectionality of these issues and how financial pressures can be amplified for certain groups. It's not just about individual circumstances. It's about systemic factors that create and perpetuate inequalities.
Precisely. And the report includes some powerful quotes from students that really bring these statistics to life. One student shared, "Being financially unstable has added tremendous pressure to studying. You can't focus on your course. Instead, you're thinking, how am I going to eat this week?"
That's so powerful. It highlights how these financial worries bleed into every aspect of a student's life. It's not just a separate issue. It's this constant weight that impacts their ability to learn, to socialize, to simply exist.
Exactly. And Another student shared, I am constantly watching how much money I have and not spending. I have not been eating properly to save money. I don't go out with friends either, as I cannot afford it.
These stories are incredibly tough to hear, but they also highlight the incredible resilience and resourcefulness of students. They're finding ways to cope, to adapt, to make ends meet. But it shouldn't have to be this way.
I agree. It's time we start asking ourselves as a society what more we can do to support these students.
Absolutely. They're the future, and they deserve to be able to focus on their education and their well-being without the constant burden uh, of financial stress.
It really is a call to action. And
Mhm.
speaking of taking action, the report dives into how students are coping with these financial pressures. And not surprisingly, many are turning to part-time work to try and make ends meet.
Yeah, we saw that in Anna's story. It seems like a necessary but often challenging solution. Just how widespread is part-time work among students?
The numbers are pretty stark. Over 44% of students reported having to take on a part-time job to ease financial pressures.
That's almost half the student population.
Exactly. And while a part-time job can offer some, relief, it often creates a whole new set of challenges.
Right, because it can lead to added stress, time constraints,
Mm,
and make it even harder to focus on their studies.
precisely. And the report highlights some of those negative consequences. Over 35% of students admitted to having to miss, classes, lectures, or seminars because of their jobs.
Wow, that's a significant disruption to their education. And that figure has actually increased from 24% in 2023. So it seems like the pressure is only intensifying.
It's a troubling trend. Students are being forced to choose between, their education and their financial stability.
And it's not just about missing classes, it's about that constant mental and emotional strain of juggling multiple responsibilities.
You're absolutely right. It can lead to burnout, exhaustion, and a feeling of constantly playing catch-up. The report even found that almost 37% of students have had to miss work because of their studies, highlighting that constant tension between, those competing demands.
It's a lose-lose situation for so many. And tragically, the report also shows that a lot of students are going deeper into debt just to try and stay afloat. Almost 39% have had to rely on credit cards, overdrafts, or loans to cover their expenses.
That's a really worrying trend. It suggests that the current support systems just aren't adequate to meet the needs of many students. And that figure has also risen from 32% in 2023.
It's like they're being set up to fail financially even before they graduate.
It's a real concern. And then there's the growing trend of students turning to AI to help them manage their workload.
AI, what's the connection there?
Well, the report found that nearly 45% of students have used AI to try and improve their efficiency when it comes to their studies. That's a significant jump from 25% the previous year.
That's a huge increase. I guess it's a sign of uh, how time poor students have become.
Exactly. They're turning to AI to try and streamline their, academic work, freeing up time for their jobs or other responsibilities.
It seems like a natural response to these intense pressures, but it does raise some questions about the potential downsides of relying so heavily on technology.
It certainly does. While AI can have its benefits, we need to be mindful of the ethical implications and make sure students are using it responsibly.
Absolutely. It's a whole other conversation we could have. But for now, let's shift gears and talk about the future. What does the report tell us about students' anxieties about what comes after graduation?
Well, unsurprisingly, their financial challenges are at the top of their list of concerns. The cost of living was identified as the most, pressing worry for the next 12 months,
Mhm.
followed closely by concerns about, career prospects and finding a job.
So it's about those immediate pressures of making ends meet, but also those longer-term anxieties about finding their place in a rapidly changing world.
Exactly. And for many, there's also that the added weight of student loan debt.
Yeah, it's a heavy burden to carry, both financially and emotionally.
You're right. The report found that 50% of students are worried about having to rely on their parents or carers for financial support in the next 12 months. And almost half of the students surveyed, 48%, said that the rising cost of living makes them more likely to take on even more debt.
So it's like a perfect storm of financial anxieties pushing students toward increasingly risky solutions.
It's a worrying trend.
Huh.
And then you add in the uncertainties around, potential changes to student loan policies. And it's no wonder so many are feeling overwhelmed.
It's a lot to cope with, and it makes you wonder what's keeping these students going, what's giving them the strength to persevere despite all these challenges.
That's a great question. And despite all the doom and gloom, the report actually reveals some inspiring findings about student motivation. It turns out that even with all these pressures, students are still driven by a genuine passion for learning.
That's heartening to hear. So what's motivating them? What's fueling that spark of hope?
Well, the most common motivator, cited by 45% of students, was a genuine interest in their chosen subject.
It's so encouraging to hear that. It means that students are still excited about learning and pursuing their academic goals.
Exactly. That inherent love of learning is still a powerful force. And almost as important is their own personal drive to succeed. 43% of students said that their own ambition was a key motivator.
It's about that inner fire, that desire to reach their full potential.
Yes. And of course, future financial security was also a significant motivator, cited by 43% of students. They see education as a pathway to a better future.
Makes sense. They're working hard now so they can have more options and opportunities later on.
Right. And then there are those who are motivated by their previous academic success. They've tasted that feeling of accomplishment and they're eager to keep pushing forward.
That makes sense. Success breeds success. It's like a positive feedback loop.
Yeah. Exactly. And a smaller percentage, 34%, were motivated by the desire to make their family, friends, or tutors proud.
That sense of connection and responsibility to others can be a powerful motivator, too.
Absolutely. And interestingly, the report found that these motivations actually tend to shift and evolve as students progress through their academic journeys.
Okay, I'm curious to hear more about that. How do their motivations change over time?
Well, it seems that as students move from, further education to higher education and then on to postgraduate studies, they become even more driven by their interest in their subject, their desire for financial security, and their own internal drive to succeed.
It's like as they gain more experience and exposure to their chosen field, their passions and ambitions become more focused. They're finding their niche and their purpose.
That's a great way to put it. And the report also uncovered some interesting variations in motivations across nationalities.
Oh, that's interesting. What did they find?
One of the most notable differences was in the level of motivation driven by a pure interest in their chosen subject. Non-EU international students were far more likely to cite this as their primary motivator, with 51% of them emphasizing their passion for their field of study.
That's a higher percentage than both UK and EU students. I wonder why that is.
It's hard to say for sure, but it might have something to do with the fact that non-EU students often have to overcome more obstacles to study abroad, like visa applications, higher tuition fees, and significant cultural adjustments. So their decision to pursue their education in a foreign country might be fueled by a particularly strong passion for their chosen subject.
That makes sense. It's a bigger leap of faith for them, so that passion must be a driving force.
Right. And this difference was also evident when it came to the drive to succeed. Half of the non-EU international students said their own inner drive was their biggest motivator, compared to only 33% of EU students.
So we see again that non-EU students seem to have this incredible sense of determination and self-motivation. They're not letting anything stand in the way of their goals.
Exactly. They're driven and focused. So let's talk about the future. What's the overall vibe from students about life after education? Are they optimistic? Anxious?
Give me the scoop.
Well, get ready for some good news. Overall, students' attitudes towards life after education are actually quite positive.
Really? That's a refreshing change after all this talk about, financial stress and mental health challenges.
I know, right? It seems like there's a glimmer of hope shining through all the clouds. The overall student optimism score for 2024 is an impressive 57%, a huge jump from the 38% recorded in 2023.
Wow, that's a significant leap in optimism. What's driving this positive outlook?
Well, a few things seem to be contributing. 67% of students said they feel optimistic about life after university or college.
That's a strong majority. What are they looking forward to the most?
Career advancement and growth opportunities top the list. They're excited to apply their knowledge and skills in the real world and, build a fulfilling career.
That's understandable. They've invested so much time and effort in their education. They want to see it pay off.
Exactly. And a lot of them are also looking forward to continuing their education, indicating a desire for, lifelong learning and personal growth.
That's great. It shows a real intellectual curiosity and a thirst for knowledge.
Absolutely. And of course, financial freedom is a major aspiration. Students are looking forward to that sense of independence and security that comes with, being financially stable.
It's about being able to support themselves, pursue their passions, and enjoy life without that constant worry about money.
Exactly. And the report even captured some really inspiring quotes from students expressing their hopes for the future. One student shared, feeling more motivated to go to lessons and feeling less lonely.
It's a simple statement, but it really resonates. They're looking forward to a time when they can, enjoy their education and their social lives without the added pressures they're facing now.
Yeah. Another student shared their excitement about achieving a good grade and getting an internship or work experience in my desired job sector.
Yeah.
They're focused on, taking those concrete steps toward their career goals.
It's about translating their academic achievements into real-world opportunities.
Exactly. And another student shared a really heartfelt vision for the future. Finishing university so I can do something I enjoy, live close to the ones I love, and take a job so I don't have to worry about money anymore.
That's a beautiful sentiment. It's about finding that sense of balance and fulfillment in all areas of life: career, relationships, and financial security.
It is. It's a holistic vision of a well-rounded life.
So it seems like there's a lot of hope and optimism for the future, but is this universal? Are there any underlying anxieties lurking beneath the surface?
That's a great question. And you're right, the report does reveal a sense of uncertainty mixed with this optimism. While 67% felt generally optimistic about life after graduation, only 23% said they felt very optimistic.
So there's a sense of cautious optimism, a recognition that the path ahead might not always be easy.
Exactly. It's not blind optimism. It's a realistic acknowledgement that there will be challenges along the way. And in fact, 11% of students actually reported feeling pessimistic about their prospects.
That's a significant minority. It's a reminder that not all students are experiencing this wave of optimism. For some, the future feels pretty daunting.
It does. And their anxieties tend to revolve around a few key themes: financial preparedness, student loan debt, and the impact of AI on their job prospects.
It's a combination of economic uncertainties and technological anxiety.
Exactly. Only 40% of students felt confident that they were prepared for their financial future.
That's a pretty low number. It suggests that many students are feeling lost and unsure about how to manage their finances once they graduate.
It's understandable. They've been in this protected environment of academia, and the transition to financial independence can be a huge adjustment. And then there's the added burden of, student loan debt. Almost half of the students surveyed, 47%, said they were concerned about the amount of debt they'll be carrying.
That's a huge weight to carry around. They're worried about repayments, about how that debt will impact their, ability to achieve their financial goals, like buying a home or starting a family.
Exactly. It can cast a long shadow. And to add to their anxieties, there's also the uncertainty around potential changes to student loan policies. The report found that 48% of students are worried about these potential changes.
That's understandable. The rules of the game could change at any time, making repayment even more difficult.
Right. It's like this added layer of stress on top of an already stressful situation.
And as if those financial worries weren't enough, there's also the growing concern about how AI will impact their future job prospects.
You're right. Almost 3 in 5 students, 56%, expressed concerns about their job prospects after graduating, a significant increase from the previous year.
It seems like the job market is feeling more and more competitive and unpredictable, fueled by anxieties about automation and the rapid advancement of AI.
Exactly. Almost half of the students surveyed, 46%, believe that AI will have a negative impact on their chances of finding a job. They're worried about being replaced, about their skills becoming obsolete.
It's a valid concern. In a world where technology is changing so rapidly, it's like the ground is constantly shifting beneath their feet.
That's a great way to put it. And all of these anxieties about the future are having a very real impact on students' mental health in the present. A staggering 50% of those surveyed worried that their mental health will worsen in the next 12 months.
That's a heartbreaking statistic. It really highlights the urgent need for universities and colleges to prioritize mental health support services.
I agree. We need to equip students with the tools and resources they need to, manage stress, anxiety, and uncertainty.
It's about creating a culture of care and well-being within these institutions, recognizing that mental health is just as important as academic achievement.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the 2024 Student Happiness Index report.
Wow, what a journey. We've explored the highs and lows of student life, from those inspiring stories of resilience and determination to the concerning trends of financial stress and mental health challenges.
We've delved into their anxieties about the future, their motivations for pushing forward, and their hopes for a brighter tomorrow.
And through it all, we've seen how diverse the student experience truly is. It's a tapestry woven from, unique individual journeys, each shaped by different circumstances, strengths, and vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. And as we conclude this deep dive, we leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay, hit me with that final nugget of wisdom.
If universities and colleges are meant to prepare students for the future, what role should they play in equipping them not just with academic knowledge, but also with the financial literacy, the mental well-being skills, and the adaptability they'll need to thrive in this complex and ever-changing world?
That's such a powerful question. It challenges us to think beyond traditional notions of education and ensure that we're truly preparing students not just for their careers, but for life itself.
Exactly. It's about empowering them with the skills and the resilience they'll need to navigate the complexities of adulthood and create fulfilling lives.
It's about recognizing that education is more than just accumulating knowledge. It's about developing the whole person.
I couldn't agree more.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the 2024 Student Happiness Index report.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration. We hope it's given you some valuable insights into the realities of student life today.
And we encourage you to continue the conversation. Share your own experiences and observations, and advocate for positive change in your own communities.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Yeah, it is a lot for them to be thinking about and to kind of be grappling with as they're trying to, finish their degrees and figure out what's next.
Right, and I imagine this whole AI thing is adding like a whole other layer of complexity to the mix.
It's really interesting to see how this is playing out in the student experience, because it's not just about like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. It's also about how students are actually using AI to try and manage their workload and their time.
Oh, like to become more efficient and stuff?
Exactly. The
Yeah.
report actually found that nearly 45% of students have used AI in some way to try and, improve their efficiency when it comes to their studies.
Wow, that's a pretty significant number.
It is. And that's a big jump from the previous year. It was only 25% in 2023.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty natural response to these intense pressures that they're facing. Right, like they're trying to juggle their studies, their jobs, their social lives, and now they've got this whole other tool that they can use to try and stay afloat.
Yeah, it makes you wonder though, are there downsides to this? Like, is it all just about efficiency, or is there, a risk that they're becoming too reliant on AI?
Right, it's a valid question. And the report doesn't really dive into that too deeply, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something to think about, right? Like, what are the long-term implications of this increasing reliance on AI in education?
Right, like is it impacting their ability to think critically or, develop their own unique skills and talents?
Exactly. It's a whole other deep dive we could do.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's safe to say that student life in 2024 is anything but simple.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're facing a whole bunch of pressures, from financial stress to mental health challenges to this, rapidly changing technological landscape.
Right. It's clear that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to these challenges.
Yeah.
But the report does offer some valuable insights into what students are struggling with, what's motivating them, and what they're hoping for in the future.
And I think that's a really good starting point, right? It gives us a foundation for understanding their experiences and starting to think about how we can better support them.
I agree.
It's about listening to their voices, acknowledging their challenges, and working together to create a more equitable and supportive environment for all students.
That's what it's all about.
So that wraps up our deep dive into the 2024 Student Happiness Index report.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
And as always, we encourage you to continue the conversation.
Talk to the students in your lives, advocate for change in your communities, and let's work together to create a world where students can not just survive, but truly thrive.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.